And we're live.
And we are live.
Monsters.
With lots of chatter.
Not Monsters Inc.
Not Monsters Inc.
So, right then, guys. We'll start with some introductions, I reckon. So, Robin, do you want to kick off first and tell us about you?
Robin Dreeke, head of People Formula and podcast called Forged by Trust, retired head of the FBI Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, spy recruiter, and all stuff trust-based. There you go.
Love it. Lena?
Love it. Lena Sisco, former interrogator, former archaeologist. Started my own company in 2013, and I've written a couple books, gave a TED Talk, and I am all about rapport-based, non-accusatory interviewing and negotiation tactics to spot the lies and get the truth.
There you go. I got books too. There you go.
Yeah, yes, you do.
So the former archaeologist, I'm going to avoid the kind of possibility to go with a bad tasting joke about women digging up the past. Yeah, I've no doubt.
It's not new.
Hi everybody, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gavin Stone, former civil servant for the British Ministry of Defence and previous security and intelligence contractor for around about 20 years. Done a little bit of everything from close protection to covert surveillance and everything in between. So we're going to kick off tonight. We're going to talk about procrastination and how to get around it. Excuse the voice. If it goes throughout the night, then I'm just going to leave it to the others. But before we go, I want to say a big happy birthday to John Paxton, who I believe is 21 today. So happy birthday, John.
Hey, happy birthday.
Brilliant. Right. Anybody want to say anything before we get going, before we roll? Are we good to go?
Good to go. Good to see everyone again.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, great to see a few more here rolling in. So I can see. Can you guys see the comments where you are?
Yeah, I just shifted over to them. Yep.
Yes, I can. Oh, there's Brian. John, I hope you have an awesome birthday. So let me just put that out there. Hey,
Fantastic.
Julie. Hey, Helen. Body Language Book Club. Sam.
Yo.
Yep, Sam.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, thanks for the story on Insta, Sam. Right, so procrastination, serial procrastination apparently affects around about 80% of the population of the planet. How about that? I didn't realize that was as high as that. I didn't think there were so many people that suffered with serial procrastination. Quite a big thing. So we're gonna. Is there anybody in the comments right now as well that would like to know anything specifically about procrastination or anything that we can address later on? Please let us know now, and we'll try and cover it for you. But yeah, we're going to go into why people do it, and I'm going to kick off with it's this simple route of you've got a task to do, and it could be anything that is going to be moving you towards your success. So whether it's writing a book, whether it's applying for a new job, whether it's whatever it is, might be just replacing your wardrobe. You might want to go and do some retail therapy and get some shopping done, but you procrastinate, you put it off, and it doesn't happen. And either at the last minute you dive in and you scribble something down and you go, nah, I knew I wasn't very good at this, or you go and buy any old clothes from the shops and you go, oh, no, I didn't get the things I wanted, but this will do for now, and results in poor kind of results of what you set out to achieve, and that then confirms it and further identifies you as not being very good at X, whatever it is. Confirms you are a procrastinating person, and you knew you were right to put it off because you're not very good at doing that particular thing. So this all comes down to how you identify yourself. Identity is everything here, because if you identify as a procrastinator or somebody who procrastinates a lot, then you will confirm it by doing the actions that you do. And this is how, and I think, what was it? The strongest force in psychology is the need to remain congruent with how somebody identifies themselves. So if you identify yourself as somebody who procrastinates, then you are going to do it even more. So you need to change your identity. And we're going to go into how to do that. Lena, I'm going to go over to you for the word identity. Can you give us the origins?
So, of course, you put me on the spot. I forget the Greek words, but it comes from two Greek words meaning repeated and being. So if you think about it, your identity is just a repeated being, a repeated state of self. And that's what we anchor to, right? I am who I am, my personality, my choices, my decisions, my likes, my dislikes. my hobbies, and I repeat that and repeat that. So identity is that repeated being.
I love John Paxton's reply there. Have you seen that?
Right. The other
Nice.
I don't know if we can get the comments up on. I've never done it before, so I'm going to read it out. So the other 20% procrastinate about procrastinating, making it 100%, which broke the study. Yep, stands a chance. Which actually, believe it or not, brings me to the next part of the phrase: inaction in itself is an action.
Mm-hmm.
Because by not taking action, you're taking action towards not achieving what you want to achieve. So this sounds like, I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of explaining this. Sorry, everybody, I've had a very late night. So this is where we would go into looking at habit forming, and habit forming, as we've all read Atomic Habits. I'm going to plug it again. I always do. Absolutely brilliant book. I recommend it to everybody. Probably the best nonfiction book I have ever read in my life.
And I got mine here.
Okay, you know what? I'm pulling mine up on Audible because
We're book shaming you.
Find it.
Yeah, James Clear, if you're listening, give us a plug one day. Return the favor.
Come on the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, come on, join us. So there we go. Atomic Habits.
There you go.
For everybody out there, definitely get this and get into this. There are some fantastic, valuable lessons in, from habit stacking to why we form habits, how to get rid of bad habits, and how to create some good ones. So I'm going to put Robin on the spot now and see if we can go into some of the ideas of some of the things that you picked up from that book.
I really liked what you were saying earlier about identity and how habits become part of our identity and who we are. One of the things I'm a huge believer of one of our anchors is if we can identify and put together our personal brand of what we want that to always be, and then always act very congruent with that, especially when times happen when we're emotionally hijacked, or we're prone to procrastination, or when things just kind of start going askew. It helps to slow down and just ask yourself, is what I'm about to do, say, or action I'm going to take congruent with the personal brand I have? And if we make action a part of our personal brand, then you start building a habit around it. And then that gets into what James Clear was saying in Atomic Habits. And I'm a big believer in this too. You just start out small. You got to, what are the pillars of it? One, you got to make it simple. You got to make it easy. You got to make it repeatable. And you have to make you have to create it so people want to do it. And so with anything you want to do, I became, and I am still today, a big checklist guy. And my personality is not a checklist. I'm an extrovert and I am intuitive. So all these things come together with, I just kind of see, go, blah, blah, blah. But I have to write it down. I mean, and so this is even doing, pre-stage props. These are literally the things I have. I have two workbooks, notebooks I keep with me. My one is my daily list of everything I put down every day, which is also very good too. So checklists do a number of things for us. It's a form of journaling, which is also exceptionally good for our psyche, because it helps us organize our thoughts. It helps us be more reflective and contemplative. But at the same time, it actually creates a checklist, a do list of things to start with. If you then go and bring into Eat That Frog first, the whole premise of that goofy title is Eat That Frog, meaning like no one wants to eat a frog, so you better start the day eating a frog, because once you eat the frog, the rest of the day is easy. And so you put the hard things first at the beginning of the day, but make it easy to do those things. And so exercise and health, Gavin and I have been talking a little bit about this, but I actually so this is the workout book I have every day. I mean, this goes back a couple of years, especially to COVID. I mean, look at this mess. Every single day, I take blood pressure, heart rate, and I log down calories burned, exercise done, amount of swimming and walking I do, all goes in that log it every day. And I tally it every single day, year after year. And there's actually a column here. So it's labeled AF, alcohol free. I track how many days alcohol free. So it's been, not as much as you, but we're starting to approach a year, which you start then tracking small habits making big difference in how we're approaching life. And so starting out with that good fresh habit in the morning, starting out with a walk. And this is sort of the thing I loved about James Clear and Atomic Habits as well, If you don't have time to walk an hour, you don't have time to get 10,000 steps in a lunch, start with 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Do 3 minutes. If you have an extra 2 minutes on the following day, do that. But just start making it a habit. Lay out your clothes at night, be ready in the morning, and just start the day organized and doing that. That's how you start doing it.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant.
First.
Hey, Robin, are you for MBTI? Are you a J?
Yeah.
That's why you're a list taker, just like me.
But it's funny too. I'm a list, but on disc I'm a high I, and so I'm not a D, which a lot of times ENTJs are dominant personalities on disc. I'm an I, so I'm the people-oriented side of the ENTJ. And the problem with that is, yes, I like lists, but my lists are completely chaotic. So no one else can follow them.
Well, and that makes sense. So I'm an ENTJ as well, and I use the bullet journal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. It allows me to still have that intuitive, chaotic mind. But this journal is the only one I've ever found that fits how I think and how I act and whatever. And I love it. Oh my God. It's my Bible.
And the thing that y'all can't see is, so these are the two little books, but to my left is my board for the podcast. And it has the dates and release dates of the guests there. Over here is the work board. It's got the quote. So I'm actually bracketed by my other lists that keep going and keep me on track all day as well. So yeah.
For those who don't know, I mean, it's actually been proven that people who journal have got a lower chance of heart disease and heart attacks. And because at the end of the day, it is a form of venting in some ways when you're writing at the end of the day the things that have happened and so on and so forth. So that absolutely brilliant. It helps you to organize yourself. My friend was so disorganized, I bought him a journal and he took it home and forgot where he put it, and that was just a no-go. So but a lot of people tend to struggle with journals, with journaling, with writing, with they just don't like it. So the answer is video journal. If you can't write it down, if you can't, make yourself a short video at the beginning or the end of each day. It's really, really simple. You can record it at bedtime, saying tomorrow I want to do X, Y, and Z, and then the next day when you get up, you can be having a shave, whatever the case may be, and literally have it playing on, in front of the bathroom mirror, saying today you've got to do X, Y, and Z, and it'll stop you forgetting what you've got to do. And then at the end of the day, you can also do your kind of today went dreadful, this happened, that happened, or today went great, X, Y, and Z happened.
There's a lot of different ways to do it. So Lena, like you, I'm an Audible person for listening to books. And so I use Apple Notes because it then transfers. I take lots of notes on there. I journal throughout, and I have all these different categories under Apple Notes that then goes to every. I always wondered how to use Apple Notes. I use Apple Notes with I create all these different folders. And the other thing for journaling, if you're not into typing or writing, whenever I'm writing anything, when doing the podcast blurbs, I dictate it. I use Microsoft Word and I dictate it, same mic, and then allows me to get my thoughts out there, and then I'll do edits from there. So again, if you're not into typing, not into writing, at least you can dictate something. So I thought that's a great ad you had, Gavin.
No problem. I'm going to pick up on something that Brian's mentioned here when it comes to taking notes. And it's a little tip that I learned a while ago. So if you get your notebook and you just draw yourself a line around about 2/3 of the way down the page there, and take your notes on this side all the way down your page. I'm going to scribble. So this is where your notes will be. And then as you're taking your notes on this side, put a part where it would be useful to you with an emotional link, how you would have used it in the past, how you're going to use it in the present, how you might use it in the future, or a memory it brings back, any emotional link that will help you and apply to the notes that you've taken on this side, and it will help you commit it to memory. It's absolutely brilliant. Memory is stored in the same part of the brain that emotion is stored in, you see. So by using that technique with your two columns, you've got 2/3 for your actual notes and 1/3 for your link, will help you to commit it to your long-term memory and help you memorize a lot more and a lot faster.
That's really good. And I got to chime in for Sam here. So Sam, it's no big secret for me. So Sam, podcast list coming up. Mahela Bercio on Monday. Then we have Ken DeClava. Ken was a psychiatrist for the CIA. And so his podcast on interviewing people all over the world is fantastic. We have Dr. Diane Hamilton then. She is the mistress of Curiosity, I have that behind me. Then we have Jim Lawler, international spy recruiter for the CIA extraordinaire, with multiple books out on that. And then Shawnee Delaney, a DIA recruiter as well. So that's the next bunch of episodes coming up.
Dang. You got some good people there, Robin.
Yeah, and I got another 15 behind it.
Gosh, well, let me tell you, I have created 3 new habits in my life, and they are going super successfully because of Atomic Habits. I'll talk about them later, but one of which is finally getting back to the gym, and I listen to your podcast when I'm on my machine.
Yay!
So I was like, it makes it easy, but I look forward to it. I'm like, I can't listen to Robin's podcast unless I'm on a treadmill or whatever it's not the elliptical, but some machine.
Right.
Unless I'm on the machine, then I can listen to Robin's podcast. So it's my reward.
There you go. I love it. You got to form great habits. You got to make it so it's reward and gratifying at the same time. Same thing. I love listening to books. I love it more than TV or anything else. But in order to listen to books, I have to move, because I can't recall it otherwise. So I have to walk while I'm listening. And that's where I do all my. It's a great form of meditation as well. There's lots of form of meditation out there. And walking movement is a great form. Some people think you have to have a mantra and sit there in silence and focus on breathing. That's one way, but there's lots of study. Matter of fact, the other book I have here with me, Tasha Urich's book, Insight, is a science behind self-awareness. Oh. And she talks about mindfulness, self-awareness, and meditation, and all the forms that meditation takes. Yeah. And I'm a mover when it comes to meditation. I think internally and can really reflect and listen to the universe and come up with my ideas when moving. And so it's another great form of meditation. It helps you with the procrastination because it gives you the inspiration and the energy to get out and start. So what other habits you had, Lena?
I love it. All right. So my other 2 habits, and Gavin can attest to this, I have been saying for years now, Robin, years, that I wanted to learn piano and I wanted to get back to speaking German. Years.
Wow. And
I haven't done anything with it. But guess what I'm doing now? I'm speaking German and I'm playing the piano.
Wow.
Because when I set that habit up, so my habit became very easy. And it is, every morning before I check email, I'm on Duolingo, at least for a half an hour, just to see, whatever it is. I have a gorgeous piano, and my reward is just that I can actually play it and be something I've always wanted to be, which is a piano player. And just like James Clear says, I'm now telling people I play piano. It's not great, but I play it. And the fact that I'm now making that my identity, that I play piano, I'm at it every night. And then my reward, unlike you guys, I love my wine, but my reward is after I do my piano lesson, I have my glass of wine.
Wow.
Every day I'm doing this stuff and it's easy.
That identification thing is huge, especially, because all of us are kind of in a second, third, or fourth career at this point. And I've let go of the identity of the FBI spy recruiter guy. And I feel like I'm in kindergarten because I identify myself as a media podcaster. I identify as a podcaster because I love strategizing, great dialogue, great conversations. And my procrastination is editing. Oh my gosh, it takes forever to edit.
Yeah, that is not fun.
But it's very rewarding, and it's also humbling. So it's a great thing, again, to get off your butt and do, is just self-reflect and work.
That's where the chunking is going to come in for you, Robin. Where chunking is going to come in for you there. Where you were saying about earlier, if you can't tidy the room, tidy a corner.
Yeah.
Do the same thing with your editing. Just turn around and say, right, I'm not going to edit the whole video, but if I do 5 minutes, and then take a break, and you'll find yourself after 5 minutes thinking, I'll do a bit more, and before you know it, you've done the whole video, or at least do a massive chunk of it. So you'll probably already do this.
Or you keep a bag of Hershey chocolate nuggets behind you as your reward.
My candy.
Yeah, that's it. Get the Scooby snacks going.
I got my coffee, and I got my Scooby snacks.
Oh my God, that's awesome. Gav, I was reading comments and somebody requested links. So I'm, after this is over, I'll go on the Facebook page and I will put links up for random stuff we've talked about, like the bullet journal, MBTI disc, anything that kind of pops up. So in the comments, our listeners, let us know what you want me to put links to, and we will do that. And of course, Robin's podcast, so you can see the schedule.
I'll put that on there, And of course, if there's anybody who's watching who's not on TCG Tribe on the Facebook page, come on over and we'll let you in and you can come and join in the action there.
Boy, Ziggy's got a great question. Can you change your brand, or is it harder to convince others that your brand has changed?
Oh, that is good.
First of all, I'm going to hit that word convince.
Yeah.
Because convincing is about you, inspiring people to see something different about them. So I love reversing it and thinking in terms of inspiring people versus convincing. And it's not about trying to make someone think something about you. Just be you. Don't worry about what anyone else says or thinks. Just be very clear about what it is you want to represent for yourself and present that to the world, and just be consistent. I call it congruence. If you have congruence between your actions and your words and your deeds, then you become exceptionally trustworthy because you're exceptionally predictable. And most importantly, you make other people feel safe because they now know what to expect from you. So yeah, you can't really change who you are. I'm a big believer in you can add to who you are. So hold on to what all the greatness that you have in you, and then add new things to you and accentuate it as needs be.
Yeah, build yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I love that.
Robin, it was behavior, words, and deeds, right? That's your kind of triangle for congruency. I love that. I love that. I love it. And I do a lot of leadership training, and I tell you, there's one key element to leading others. First, they have to want to follow you. You can't be a leader without followers. And the way that you gain followers is that consistency and behavior, because that brings trust. When you have trust, people want to follow and listen to you. Yeah. And there's so much more than that, but I love the fact that you said that.
When in doubt, I was on a call with someone today. When in doubt, if you don't know what to do, if things become challenging, whether as a leader, whether the communicator, with anything, make people feel safe.
Yes.
That's it. Because that is such a core pillar that leaders do. We do as parents, we do as friends, we do as colleagues, we do as spouses or partners. If you want to really build and forge trust and move forward, be successful, be winners, make people feel safe, because there's nothing's going to help move that dial forward than feelings, including stop procrastinating. If you feel safe in the beginning, if you feel safe to start, that's also part of overcoming procrastination. See, circle right back.
Yeah.
Well done.
I love that. I'm a huge proponent for safe environments, especially in the former work that I used to do. But I was just last week in Hampton, Virginia, training the police department. And I tell them from day one to the last day of class, create a safe environment for people to want to open up and be honest with you because they trust you. So that is just huge. And how to loop that back to procrastination. It's if I'm not procrastinating and I'm continuing to do my habits or do whatever, and I have the courage myself to continue to do this task, and other people see me doing it and I'm not procrastinating, that makes them trust me in my ability to do XYZ. I don't have to do it perfect, but the fact that I have the courage to keep trying to do it, and people like that and they trust that. So it's another good reason for when you feel like you're procrastinating, don't fear it, because you don't know what's going to happen. You may fail, you may not, but just go after it and be consistent in that behavior. Create a mindset. I talked about that today in 2 of my online courses. It's having that mindset to just go and do it.
So I have a question for Gavin.
Ooh.
So Gavin, one of the most popular parts of the podcast that we did together was talking about your daughter and how we educate our children and how you train your daughter in spycraft in order to keep her safe.
Yep.
What are you doing for your daughter, and how are you teaching your daughter not to procrastinate? Because I know a lot of parents have questions on what can we do for our children. What are you doing?
So with me, a lot of it is reward focused, I gotta admit. This is something where, but with children, rewards for them, it's down to perception. So for example, when she was a kid, I used to go and make my coffee, and my parents, if they were around, would go, "Oh, don't let her near the kettle, don't let her," they did everything for her. And I've seen parents that don't get their kids involved. I love to get my daughter involved. So if I'm making myself a coffee, I'll hold her in my arms and we'll get the sugar pot out and she'll get the spoon and she'll spill sugar all over the work surface, but nobody's dead or pregnant, so it doesn't matter. And some of it will go into the cup. And you know, kind of 3 shovelfuls later, I'll either end up with the sweetest coffee in the world, or kind of one that needs a bit more sugar. And we will. The only part I do is where I pour the boiling hot water in. You know, she adds the milk, she stirs it, she does everything. And this is when she was obviously a lot younger than what she is now. But that to her was really rewarding. The involvement in it, the fact that she got to do something that other people don't let her do, that she doesn't normally get to be a part of, was really fulfilling for her. So when I say reward, you don't necessarily have to feed your kids Scooby snacks all day long, or you know, give them tons of candy. It can just be giving them something that is out of the ordinary.
So you actually did something really cool in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know I love picking these things out.
Yeah,
Trying to know what it is.
You made her feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here's a little girl that spills sugar all over the place, makes a mess, maybe creates a little minor disaster, which many parents are gonna get on that and really rail against that, or scold them on that. And what did you do? You
no, we have the reward of having to clean it up together.
See, you made her feel safe.
So, but it's all part and parcel of it, yeah. And that was it, making her feel safe, making her letting her enjoy it, and you know, like you say, giving her that kind of not just the feeling of safety, but the involvement of it. So with every action, like making a coffee, we have to clean up afterwards. So it's all part and parcel of what you would have to do as an adult. So she has to do it as, you know, part of the making of the coffee, or whatever the task is of the day. So yeah, that's one of the many things I do with my daughter.
And you know what's really exciting about that too? I was, you know, one of the themes I have besides trust is this curiosity aspect. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that when you're telling a story and you're talking about your daughter last time, and that is, I think curiosity also plays a part in overcoming procrastination, because the more curious we are about something, more curious we are about solving a problem, solving a question, more curious we are about what the result's going to look like, the less we're going to procrastinate it, because we really want to move forward and see it. I've only seen that in my life. And I think of Jordan Harbinger, who's just on my show, and that dude's amazing curiosity got him outside doing crazy things throughout his life. I mean, who travels to North Korea for fun with a tour group? You did too?
Long story. I'm not going to tell you.
No, hey, was it for pleasure or for work?
No, it was South Korea, and it was we did a bit of research for work. So, but I wasn't meant to be there officially. So long story.
Well, he did it for other reasons too. But again, it's that curiosity which can help overcome procrastination. And same thing, Lena. I mean, you getting your advanced degrees in archaeology, and it was your curiosity to solve all these ancient mysteries of the world, was it not?
It was, but you know, I think there was as you're talking, there was a bigger curiosity.
What was that?
And that was, am I good enough to get into an Ivy League school? What was that noise?
Excuse me.
No, I'm not, right? But that was a curiosity, because, and I talked about my background with you, Robin, it was not roses for me. For some reason, I just couldn't learn in high school, and I barely got C's. I get to college and I'm like struggling. I almost get kicked out. And all of a sudden I'm in a career field that I love, anthropology. And I went from almost failing out of college to getting Dean's List. And so the more that I was getting smarter or whatever it was, I'm like, I wonder how far I can push this. I'm going to apply to an Ivy League school to get my master's. And it was like this, I was challenging myself like a dare, but it was curiosity to see, could I really do it? Would it really happen?
You know, and that brings up a good point, which Ziggy asked here, is curiosity or is procrastination rooted in fear? Was there anything in college to which you were fearing that kept you from succeeding until you discovered your passion?
I think for me, it was always, am I good enough? Compare myself to others constantly. And I was being judged. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, not being the smart one and not I'm not a numbers girl. So I literally was failing out of classes. And I'm like, I was judging myself. I was feeling other people were judging me. They really didn't care. But I was putting all this judgment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a horrible person. I'm terrible. What am I going to do? I'm just a loser. Right. And then change majors. I'm like, maybe there's hope for me if I actually study something I love. And if I can't do that, I don't know what's going to happen to me. And as soon as I changed direction and it was something that I was super curious about, that I loved, that was rewarding to me, I went, poof, Dean's List in one semester.
So I'm guessing, I might be guessing wrong on this, and this for both of you, because I know we have all had, varying degrees of great trauma when we're younger, which spurs you to action. A lot of times it's also an individual that gives us the validation in a area of fear that gives us a spur to move forward. It says, I can do that. I can only relate. I've recently interviewed Alden Mills, who is a former Navy SEAL, and he's on an upcoming episode. And he talks about when he was in middle school, he had really big thighs and kids would make fun of him, call him thunder thighs. And he was kind of a chubby kid and he had asthma. Meanwhile, he goes on to go to the Naval Academy. He's there when I was there, and he goes on to be a Navy SEAL. He's the inventor of the perfect push-up. But what was interesting was he discovered crew in middle school, like rowing, because he looked the same. He struggled at baseball, basketball, all the ball sports, but he had the crew coach walk by him one day, looked at his legs and says, you have the body of a great rower. Didn't change anything except this. So the question then back to you, was there someone that validated you in a certain area, specific topic you took, a class you took, a book you read that said, wow, Lena, you have a natural talent right here?
I want to say in high school, the only class I aced all the time was anthropology. In the teacher, whatever you don't call him, professor, teacher would say like, wow, this is something you excel in. But I never thought about it. I was like, well, I'm not going to be an anthropologist. What do they do? I'm not going to do this. So I was like, whatever. But I can't do, algebra or geometry or calculus. I just can't do any of this stuff. And I go on to college and I still don't think anything about this anthropology thing. And then I was like, maybe there's something to it. And then I just.
Yeah. So an earlier anchor that was there. How about you, Gavin?
I had the opposite effect. I was a nightmare at school. I was in so much trouble all the time. I couldn't stand school. I hated it. I ended up leaving at 15 without any qualifications at all. And just before I quit, which the headmaster said I can't do, and I said, watch me, and walked out. Just before I quit, the teacher turned around and he gave me the pep talk that he's normally saved for the school leavers on their day of telling them how great they are. And he told me I'd actually be better off committing suicide. So I never actually had the chance to go back and thank him for that.
What'd that do for you?
It really, really built me up. Not at the time, but later on.
How so?
Because I am, as a rule, I'm the kind of person that I don't like being boxed in, told what to do, told what I can and can't do, don't like being hemmed in any way. In fact, if you look on my social media, there's photos of me in like kind of secret military installations saying strictly no photography, and I'm there taking a selfie. I'm not a rules person. I'm not very good at it. So the minute somebody turns around to me and says, you can't do that, I'm like, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I think, and I didn't realize at the time, but I think back then with my teacher, he could see that within me. He knew with all the things I did at school, I did really, really well with all of my, what they call the mock exams. I don't know, you probably have the same thing over there. They're just like kind of tests. So, like kind of gives you a chance to try that. So I did really, really well with all my mock exams. But I never took any of the actual exams, and I didn't really pay attention. I was one of these annoying kids that just kind of I look at it and like, yeah, I've got it, and that was it. And I did it, and the teachers hated me because of the fact that I didn't put any effort into it at all, and I was just kind of a bit cocky with it. But I was always off school. I was always in trouble. I was always skiving, and I think my form tutor saw that rebellious streak in me. And I think when he said to me, you're never going to go anywhere, you're never going to achieve anything, you're never going to be anything any good, the best thing you can do is go and kill yourself and do the world a favour. I thought to myself, okay, fair enough, I see how it is. And I walked out of the school and I didn't think too much about it. And it wasn't until a few years later I thought, I know exactly what he was doing now. Because I mean, I went back and I got a load of qualifications. I ended up getting qualified in psychology and loads of other things. And it dawned on me, I thought, that's what he was doing. It was setting me a challenge. I just didn't know it. And at least I hope so. Otherwise, he's just a horrible git. So, yeah, he possibly could be, to be fair. But at the end of the day, whatever, for me, it was a lesson that made me go, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to show you that I can do something and I can achieve something in my life. And here I am all these years later, still trying.
Yeah, having loving critics in our lives to help us overcome procrastination by giving that optic, maybe not telling us what we want to hear, but what we need to hear in those moments is also a good part of it.
Definitely. I want to go back to this thing here about somebody saying about curiosity. Procrastination rooted in fear as well, because it was when you were talking about archaeology, Lena, that I thought to myself, isn't it crazy how the world's biggest, most common fear is the fear of the unknown? And yet at the same time, our biggest curiosity is the unknown. That's the thing we want to know about: what's in space, what's at the deepest oceans, what's buried 2,000 years ago under the ground. And, we all want to know those little mysteries and the answers to those little puzzles. We've all got this deep desire to get to the bottom of the unknown, but at the same time, it's also our biggest fear. What comes after we die? Scary.
I love that. Yeah, that was really good. It's like, do we really want to know?
Yeah. With that, there we go.
I love those. What are they?
they're my gangster glasses. Look, there we go.
2 gangster glasses, I may add.
So somebody's just put interesting dichotomy. Yeah, sorry, I've derailed the conversation a little bit there with that. I apologize.
It's because I asked fun questions.
I know. But here we go. Do you know what we haven't done the last couple of times? We haven't pinged this back at you, Robin. So now we're going to turn around and say, who was it who did it for you?
Yeah.
Did what? Which?
Well, same question right back at you. So what was that person or point in your life that kind of became pivotal for you to turn around and go, this is where I become me? What was that inspiration for you?
It's funny. When I was talking to my guest Alden Mills, and he's talking about that moment when he overcame being made fun of in school for his legs, and he found his way to be accepted, and he built muscle memory around being on a team sport at a very young age. There's so many events each of us have, and I have this bucket load of different moments that were humbling, that moved me forward. I probably say the first true brave moment that I had in my life that was self-generated, 100% me, and it took a lot of bravery at the time and was pivotal on me having courage and also overcoming procrastination to keep it centered. Was I grew up in a very rural area, no friends, no money in the family, working very hard at a young age because my mom, when I was 9 years old, said we have no money for school clothes. And when at that age, if you're not wearing the right clothes, back then it was a hoodie with Wrangler blue jeans or Lee jeans and a pair of Nike sneakers, you were nothing. And so I had to start working in order to do that. But it also meant I would live so far out of town that my parents didn't have cars. They both worked, so I couldn't get anywhere. So I was never on team sports. When I went into high school, I really wanted to go to the Naval Academy bad. It was like this lifelong dream to go to the Naval Academy, aerospace engineering, astronaut, all the things that, went sideways, as I always say. But in order to do that, I had to start the bull rolling. And I had to get on a team sport, and football was it. If I wanted to start making but the challenge was this: I had never played football before. Everyone that was playing football in high school had done it in middle school. The cliques were solid and they were formed, and I was not in it. And I had a bunch of guys that were bullying me, and they were all on the football team. And I showed up to day one for football tryouts, facing down every single bully that kept pushing me, making fun of me and everything else. And it took a lot of courage to do that. And I actually wound up winning a starting position. I was a starting lineman, even, I'm not a tall guy. I was a lineman just because I loved hitting people. Boy, I could take out a lot of rage on that field. But I wound up swinging everyone's opinion about me completely 180 because I my brand was I just showed up and I just worked and worked. And again, it was good for the self-reliance and resiliency and tenacity and initiative. Again, but it reinforces that self-centeredness too, that becomes harder later when you have to start leading, when make it about others. But anyway, that was the first moment for me. And it was a coach that saw that kind of glimmer in me and kind of took me under his wing and kind of helped me navigate through getting in the academy and things like that. So it was that was the moment. And there was a couple people that I didn't really realize at the time had kind of inserted themselves in my life. The one was a school resource officer, sheriff's department guy that helped me get the nomination to the Naval Academy. And then the football coach also kind of helped weave me around. So I wish I knew then that I know now the role that people play in relationships.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. You don't realize till later on in life, and looking back, that you think, wow, I didn't realize that person, how much they did for me at that time. And it's really amazing.
And hold on to them. That's why I loved, when I referenced last week, Jordan Harbinger's networking class, 6-minute networking.
Yeah.
Such a good class. It's about maintaining those relationships and how to just water them now and then. No expectation, just reach out, touch. And I started doing it much more. And it's just a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Highly recommend
value
that.
People, value relationships. It's because, again, creating that's a brand that is good. Just being the person that can be counted on to take care of others and be there for them and being of service. Great brand.
And of course, like what he said, just sometimes getting in touch with no strings attached.
Yes.
Just getting in touch with somebody you haven't seen for a while, just reaching out just to
no ask.
That's it. Yeah, don't want anything from it.
No ask.
Yeah, great. So I want to recommend to Ziggy Shrugs. She gets a book, by the way, called The Science of Getting Rich, I believe it is. She's she's setting up her business, and I think that would really be helpful to yourself. Get that, preferably on audiobook as well, by the way, because there's a lot of emphasis in how it's narrated. So for Ziggy, get that. And there was something else I was going to say. We're good for time as well. It's going well tonight. Procrastination. It was, implementation, intention. Do you remember when we talked about that before with Atomic Habits? Yeah. So I think this is absolutely fantastic for anybody who is struggling with procrastination. It's a bit like writing an appointment card for yourself, where you put, right, tomorrow at 1 p.m. I'm going to sit in this room and do X. And because you've set that implementation, if you have to stick it on a board, stick it on behind a magnet on your fridge, whatever you want to do, but you've set that goal, because you will find that once something has a set time, a set intention to do it, and you can make sure you can tell other people you're not available or you're not going to be able to do anything at that particular time. Make sure there's no other distractions. Turn your phone off, whatever. But plan to do it and write it down, and you've got a better chance of actually succeeding with it, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
And I actually just went to my notes, because again, I take notes on my notes thing while I walk. So I actually pulled out my notes for Atomic Habits, and it's these four things is what James Clear talks about. The cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. That's what creates the habit. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that the cue is a positive one. You want to make sure that you have the craving that you want to have, the response that you want to have, and make it a reward that you want to have. So those are the four things. 3 levels with changing habits. You have to look at the outcome, the process, and changing your identity. And there goes the identity one you're talking about, Gav.
Yeah.
Cue, craving, response, reward. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm digressing. Thumbing through my pages of notes on that book. This is it. Make it obvious, make it attractive, and make it easy. That's how you switch habits.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. So based on animal training principle. Yes, it is actually, Sam. Well spotted. Yeah. Very, very much the same. So because at the end of the day, we are, aren't we? We are animals. We just we tried to become a little bit more civilized. Some of us better than others. Still trying.
So I started now with my habit of speaking German. I'm training Bandit, my corgi, in German commands now. And let me tell you, Robin, don't laugh.
It's awesome.
You can hear, and my husband's like, what are you doing? What do you keep saying to her? I'm like, well, if you spoke German, you know.
Hey, you got to say something now, as I want to hear German in your accent.
Oh, Lordy. So come in here. Just come here. It's very, German's so easy. Sitz is sit, and Platz is lay down. But whenever I get
Plots, Gavin, plots.
I tend to be such a loud. So, and I get very excited. So when I go zits, and I do hand movements too. So if I don't say anything, she follows just the hand, and she sits. And Platz was a little difficult because she's never done that before. So I literally have to get her to lay on the ground. And so, yeah, it gets a little loud. I'm like, Platz! And she's like,
and everyone in your neighborhood just hits the ground.
What is going on?
Wow. The Hundeslug, yeah.
But I tell you, repetition and the reward, right? She knows that when she Platz, she gets a good treat. So yeah, it works. It works.
Lots.
I love it.
I like it.
Hey,
we're gone.
I was thinking of this because Robin, in your story with football made me think of my high school and how I was the Nirvana cheerleader. And then it made me think of the day that I finally made the decision that I needed to quit. And I was okay with that. And then I also think of the day, fast forward later in life, when I made the decision to quit, whatever you want to call it, but to leave the Navy. And those are two huge critical decisions to me. And I procrastinated on both of them for a long, long time. So I didn't know, gentlemen, if we could maybe kind of guide the conversation that way. If anybody in, our comments or anybody listening has a big decision to make or they've been thinking about. And of course, habits start with a decision, but maybe this isn't to form a habit. Maybe this is just to make a big decision. And because I know I procrastinate on really big decisions. So I didn't know if we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, if anyone wants to bring anything up. Something just came to mind when you were talking about that, actually, because there is a difference between procrastination and planning. However, I think it was from the Atomic Habits book. He said something along the lines of planning is the enemy of doing, because it gives the illusion that you're making some headway, that you're actually achieving something. So, and you get some people, they plan and plan and plan for that long that they're actually using the planning as a form of procrastination with the illusion of some kind of positive forward progress. And you're not actually making any progress. After you've got your plan in place, start acting, simple as that. So.
In statement analysis, I call it intent, no action. When I'm reading statements and I decided to, if there's no follow-up with I did or whatever, then you never did it. So it's intent, no action. If we are stuck in that planning phase, it's great intent, but we need the action to follow.
Oh, definitely. Hi, Grant. Good to see you here, buddy.
Hi, Grant.
And the other great quote I just read from the book right now is, you can't improve a habit that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I love that. I heard about, I'm sure it was in the book where he turned around and he said he got somebody who promised himself he was going to go to the gym for no more than 6 minutes for the first month. I think he said 6 minutes or something like that. And the theory was, not that you're going to be able to achieve too much in 6 minutes in the gym, but he'd go in there and he'd kind of maybe run on the treadmill for 4 or 5 minutes, have a drink of water and leave again. Yep. And what it did, it created the habit of going to the gym. It helped him identify as a gym goer. So after a month of doing it, not only did he identify as a gym goer, not only did he have the habit of somebody going to the gym every single day, but he'd also got that itch in his routine, because those 6 minutes left him craving, left him wanting more. So he's kind of like, oh, I want to be in the gym and doing a bit more, but he wouldn't let himself go above the 6 minutes deliberately to keep the appeal there. So by the end of the month, he could start ramping it up and spend a little bit longer and do a little bit more. And that really worked out well for him. So for anybody else in the same situation, like what Robin said there, you can't improve a habit that you haven't got yet. That is like absolutely get into the habit of doing, or
So Gavin, you brought up last time we chatted, and if you don't want to talk about it, I completely understand, because I have the same habit. So about a year ago, you gave up that habit of alcohol. How'd you give up that habit? Because that's not an easy one to give up.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Right. I'm going to give a massive shout out here now to a company which is a kind of a well-known secret amongst A lot of the celebrities, I believe, it's London based, and I think there's an office in New York. And it's called Alan Carr's Easy Way. And I probably should be on commission for this, but they give a money back guarantee if you want to give up alcohol, sugar, cigarettes, heroin, anything at all. You go down there, one day you're in, you're out, you're done. Simple as that. Money back guarantee. I stopped smoking 10 plus years ago, and I had several attempts where I could stop for so many months, but then I'd start again, and then I'd stop and I'd start, and eventually I went to Alan Carr and I paid, and it was, I think it was around about £300 or thereabouts. So probably about $500 US dollars, give or take. And I went in and I did the day, and I came out, and my wife said, "Well, did it work?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "Well, do you feel like a cigarette?" I said, "No." And that was it. It was done. It was sorted. And they got rid of a lot of the cues and a lot of, you know, that side of it. So when I decided to give up drinking, I thought I can either struggle through this myself, or I can go and do the Alan Carr's Easy Way. He does do a book, which might work for some people, but it's not as good. He does do a digital, like, online course. Again, I recommend going to the live sessions where you go for the day. You go and, like, pay an advance booking, go to London, you spend the day there, and you come back, and it's all over and it's all done. So, and it's brilliant how it all works. A little bit of NLP, a little bit of mind control, a little bit of lecture and education in the whole thing, all kind of mixed in together. And by the end of the day, it's all over. So,
wow.
So, yeah.
I heard of that.
But it's not. I'm going to put this out there so that people don't think that the work is off them, that they can just go and say, "Oh, somebody else is going to cure my problem." It's your problem. You have to deal with it, and you have to want to stop. You have to be
It's your habit, right?
Yeah, that's it. You want to deal with it, and you have to go with the intention of making sure that you know when you come out that you're not going to be a drinker anymore, or a smoker anymore, or whatever.
Right.
So.
You said one key word, Gav, and that was want. So I was a former smoker, and I didn't smoke a lot, but I was a former smoker, and I loved to smoke when I was out drinking, you know, my early teens and 20s and whatever. And one day, people started telling me I smell and whatever. I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit. And I just bought a new pack of Marlboro Lights, and I'm like, no, I'm ready. I want to do this. And I gave them to my brother. I'm like, "They're yours." He's like, "Ha ha," right? He's like, "I'll save them for you, lean for tomorrow." And I'm like, "No, I want this. I'm done." And I never touched it again. So I think when you said that word, a lot of desire to achieve the habit that we want, or to make that decision. I read in the comments, I think it was Sam, about how, was it Sam? Yeah. Putting off doing book summaries because I'm being in front of the camera. I hate being in front of the camera, right? So change that to I want to be in front of the camera. I like being in front of the camera. It's going to be fun to be in front of the camera. And it's that whole mindset as well. Now, I'm not going to say just changing your mindset is going to help with a lot of stuff, but it can. And I think it's a good way to start, to want to do something, because it's going to be so much easier. And then once you dive into it, I call it jumping off the diving board. All of a sudden you set up your camera, it's on record. You're like, "Oh, oops, I'm here. Hey guys." And you just do it. When you jump off that diving board, there's no going back. You're in the water, just swim, right?
Yeah. It's the shifting of the mindset of I have to do it to I get to do it.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And then answering Brian, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, some people call that the 3-2-1 method. I've heard it called, where, you know, if you are procrastinating, you say, "Right, I've got to paint the shed. 3-2-1, go." And you get up and you just go and do it. And before you've had time to think, "Am I going to do it now? Should I make an excuse? Should I put it off till tomorrow? Is the paint even got?" You've motivated. You've just said 3-2-1, go. Let's go. Let's just go and just go all in at that moment. So it works for some, doesn't for others. Sorry. What were you going to say, Robin? Sorry about that.
I want to answer Brian how I gave up alcohol. First, it had to start with I had to want to, and my want to happened. You know, as I'm getting older, I'm in my 50s. Was, well, this is no longer really serving me very well, just health wise. It was starting to battle, you know, keeping fit, keeping cholesterol down, and brain function. So first, I had to want to. And so I gave it up by accident, actually, by so the Daily Stoic had a beginning of the year challenge, because one of the pillars of Stoicism is temperance, which is no alcohol. And so at the beginning of the year, Ryan Holiday has his 90-day or 3-week, 21-day Stoic challenge, and part of it was temperance this year. So I said, I'll give it up for the dry January. And it started out easy, then it got harder because it was a habit. It was a bad habit. Then I realized, and so it took a lot of effort and I got onto Instagram and was on alcohol-free forums on there for support, because it took as long as it took to create a habit, it takes time to break the habit. So I had to want to support. And so I did it by mistake. And after 3 weeks, I was like, wow, I am feeling crazy better. My body is really doing much better, and I should really not do this anymore to myself. So it was a good blessing that I needed to do, because combine being a Marine and the pandemic, and not doing the body any good, no doubt. And so it was something I'm extremely proud of. And actually my son gave it up as well. He gave me a lot of, again, and so where do you get energy to have the courage to initiate is support, being transparent, being open. I told my family, hey, I don't think I'm going back to this because it's not serving me anymore. It's a good way to put it. And my son goes, Dad, and he's a Marine too now, he's 22. And he goes, I'm not going to do it anymore either, because you had the courage not to do it. So my wife goes, what? Okay, I guess we're no longer drinking in the house. So yeah, we are an alcohol-free house, and it's pretty funny. That's how.
Next time you speak to him, tell him he didn't give it up. He stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
Because giving it up,
I don't.
It sounds like something he's sacrificing.
And I'm definitely not going on a pontificating about alcohol, because I know it's a cultural thing, but yes, it was.
Funnily enough, I was actually going to mention something about the fail rate of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not going to go into the statistics and bore people and whatever else, but part of the problem there, even though the initial theory is good with getting people to realize that they have a problem in the first place by standing up and saying I am an alcoholic, the issue you've got there is bringing us full circle to identity. Right? The problem is they go, I'm an alcoholic, I'm 31 days, clean or sober or whatever the case may be. Well, you're not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You stopped drinking 30 days ago. You're not an alcoholic anymore, But if you're still identifying as one, you're gonna carry that label, and labels are definitely not addressed enough. With identity and how we go into things. The minute and it comes all down to your beliefs. So you go to the doctor. And the doctor says, I think you've got ADHD. And if you believe that in that moment, you label yourself with I've got ADHD. Next thing you know, you have become, you are being and identifying what you are as somebody with ADHD, and then you're going to start blaming things. And so this, and this is the same thing with Alcoholics Anonymous. If they turn around and say, I was an alcoholic and I'm now 31 days sober, something like it might be a hell of a lot better, in my opinion.
It all comes down to what works for the individual. I've known a lot of people that have been saved by AA, and at the same time, I like the label of the identity of I just live alcohol free. That's mine. I like that one.
I like the word free.
Free. Yeah, me too. Free, just free.
A lot of social pressure to drink these days, isn't there? So.
I'm more.
But so the whole idea.
Sorry, Lena.
I will never pressure either one of you. But after this is done, I'll have a glass of wine. Just saying.
And I could too. I just choose not to.
Well, before we wrap up, we've got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to address something because I know there's one or two people in the audience, and one or two people that are going to watch this on catch up later, who've had a few stressful times recently. I'm just going to mention something that happened with, they've been doing these Mars experiments all over the planet where they've got these big glass domes and they're trying to create a perfect environment with inside the domes. And one of the things that they had a lot of problem with, they've got this so-called perfect environment, but the trees were growing for so long, and then out of nowhere they would just fall and collapse. And the scientists couldn't understand why this wasn't happening, the way it should do. They've got everything they need. They've got all the nutrients, the water, the sunlight, everything. But the trees weren't growing to their full capacity and just collapsing. And the reason they were collapsing is because they'd had no stress. There'd been no wind to blow the bough of the tree, which strengthens the tree. So when the tree's going through these storms, that tree gets stronger and stronger. The roots move out further. The wood in itself becomes more dense, and that's how the tree grows and becomes a lot more stronger. So the kind of takeaway from this is, and I know because I've had a lot of stress in my life, I look back and I can look at it as a curse or a blessing, and I look at it as a blessing because it's what made me as strong as I am today. And just like the trees, if you grow up in a perfect environment where you've got no stress at all, then you are just going to collapse under the smallest amount of pressure.
Awesome.
The obstacle in the way. Yep, love it. So, and I probably didn't do a very good job of explaining that whole dome and science thing and whatever else.
That's really good. I loved it.
It's out there. But yeah, basically, yeah. When you're in these stressful times, and I know there are people out there now who are watching and who will watch this that are going through a little bit of stress at the moment, just think of it as strengthening you, because it really, really is. Because when you look back, it'll be these things that are happening right now that go, that's made me who I am and made me succeed in this area.
And don't do it alone.
Yeah.
Relationships. Lean on others. You're not meant to be alone. You're not meant to struggle alone. Share it. The greatest things you can do to feel safe is make yourself vulnerable, be transparent and open, and seek help and assistance. That's why we have great relationships in our lives. Lean on them in those times, and then be there for others when they need it. This is how it all works. And yeah, when you're going through horrible times, stressful times, you don't have to feel like a victim, but you don't have to do it alone either. Do not do it alone, because it's so much worse when you're alone.
Mm-hmm. I love it when people call me up and tell me about their bad day. It gives me something to, I feel better. I'm like, wow, I thought I was having a bad day until I heard that. Wow. I feel so much luckier. If you're having a bad day, call me up, give me a message.
Hey, Robin, can I throw a little woo in?
Please, I love the woo.
Okay, so I heard once that at some great cosmic, outside the whole universe, even bigger than what we can fathom, that the unknown, that we chose the bodies we came into. Like, for some reason, we chose our path. And so every challenge that you guys face, and every fear that you have, and every struggle, every stressor, you think of it as the little test that you knew you were going to have to strengthen yourself. And so and trust me, I have been in rock bottom's basement. All right. We'll just say that. And when I was there, I was like, wait a minute. I chose this because I wanted to learn from it and I wanted to strengthen from it. So bring it on. I'm ready. Right. And it was some bad times. I know we've all had them. But if you think of that, it's something that's there to help you grow. So grab it by the horns and just get through it. And of course, lean on your support group.
Great daily reflections, the Tao Te Ching. A great daily mantras to go through. But Lena, you know me, I am 100% behind you on that. There is much more to this entire existence than just this. Whether, and we're energy. That's it. I mean, there's no debate that we are energy, and it's a matter of what your belief system is or what happens to that energy. But we are energy, and if we were meant to be here alone, we'd be here alone. We were meant to be here together to interact. And think about, so here's a great thing to think about. I think I've mentioned it to y'all before. If not, you'll hear it now. The Dalai Lama wrote in his book, The Art of Happiness, a great question. And that is, it's the difference between understanding and pursuing pleasure or pursuing happiness. Mm-hmm. And it's a great question to ask yourself. People that pursue pleasure is the material world, which is very fleeting. And that's why people keep pursuing money but are never happy, because they think it's pleasure they're seeking. No, it's happiness. So ask yourself this. If you have 12 hours left on this planet, whatever you think is happening next, even if nothing, what would you do in that 12 hours? This is too late for the bucket list. Bucket list done. No time. What has given you the greatest joy and happiness in your life? Because that's all you have left. What would you do? that is what you become as your personal brand. When you wake up every day, strategize that kind of day. For me, it's really, really simple. It's one of the reasons why I love the podcast. My joy is a great conversation where you can talk with another beautiful human being and watch them light up with excitement, with enjoyment, and their energy for life. And when you can do that and watch it in your own kids or the people you love the most, that is a perfect day with perfect happiness. And you see how that's free of materialism. It's free of anything else except a great connection with another human being.
Yeah.
So wake up and strategize that. And you have that kind of energy, bringing it back, you'll have the energy you need to never procrastinate. Bam.
Well, you're going to need my glasses. So, right. I'm going to just mention, going back to what you said as well, Robin, about the whole kind of share it. TCG Tribe, I've mentioned it before, Lena's page, get on there. If you don't have anybody to turn to, there's a great community. Yes. Please get on there.
Family there.
Start a discussion. There is somebody always that will respond to you.
Yes.
I'm going to mention very quickly Julie Bradley, who's told her in the comments here, says, Gavin, to make you feel better, our home burnt down and we lost everything, and the insurance guy's driving me nuts today. Wow. I was having a bad day yesterday and today, and that has just kind of blown my life into perspective a little bit. So I was
sending you a lot of love, Julie. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Yes. Healing and positive energy.
Yeah.
We actually reminded me of so Julie, reflect on those words. We lost everything.
Yeah.
Material things. You didn't lose us.
Yeah. And you're still alive. You get to fight another day. You get to fight another day, and you've gone through the stress that's going to make you stronger. So my friend, we were coming back there once. I had to drive his car because his car was on fire. And he followed me in my car because we got the family with us. So he kept the family in my car. I drove his car back. And as we pulled onto his drive, the engine burst into flames underneath the hood. And he got out my car and he said, what should I do? What should I do? I said, quick, get into the house. He said, yeah. I said, get some tin foil. He said, yeah. I said, get some potatoes and a couple of deck chairs. I said, we're going to be here a while. And we had baked spuds. So he lost his car, but they were brilliant potatoes. So, make the most of everything and every situation. Thank you to everybody. We're gonna have to cut it before I think StreamYard cuts us off at some point. We forgot to go over the hour. So so to everybody that came, thank you very much. For everybody who's gonna make the replay, thank you.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, everybody.
See you all next time.
I'll see you in the Facebook group. Join the tribe.
Yep, come and join us over there.